Okay. So Emily just figured out, and I don't know if anyone else has tried this, the links I put down here for assignments don't work. And I think we had that problem back in 2011, and I never got it resolved. To get into the homework, you have to go to the My Lab and Mastering link. And then your page is going to look a little different than mine. But there'll be a link in here. You can get to it from there. That'll take you to their Pearson site. And then you should be able to get to the text and homework. It worked this time. But okay. Yeah, so if it does error, try again later, and apparently it'll just work. So we can get to the book and the homework. And then another thing I'm doing different, I'm not going to leave the homework open indefinitely. I'm going to post a due date that's usually a class session later from when I covered it, and then I'll give you one more week to get it done after that. So I don't want anyone putting off homework for more than a week. We're in now. So we have the same problem in 211 I forgot about. They can get in through My Lab and Mastering, but they can't get in through any assignment links.
Swift.
And they never have.
Yeah,
I wrote to Pearson about it last year, and they never resolved it. So we're fine. We got enough.
Sometimes I have to resync that to get them to come over. But I just went in. Somebody hadn't logged in.
Yeah.
I actually went as that student.
Okay.
So that student should be getting attendance for the day.
Okay.
But she logged in.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. All right. So we can get into that. All right. So I asked everyone to check out this survey here, and I'm going to use that to just talk about some ideas about questions and the type of thing. So it asked for my height in inches. And let's see, on a good day, I am 68 inches tall. How much money do you have? Well, on you, 0. The last 4 digits of my student number. Okay, think of 4 digits separated by commas. Oh. Regularly, what's that? My favorite color. It's color yellow and pulse rates. Pretty excited right now. I'm going to put 82. And one cool thing is when I did this in Google Forms, which is, if you've never used it, it's pretty cool. Anyone use SurveyMonkey maybe? Want to survey on that? Okay. So it's kind of like that. See previous responses. Most surveying apps these days will do this for you. They'll take your data and they'll try to make a chart out of it. How's that for meaningful chart? That's kind of weird, huh? What does it mean? We'll dissect that later. How much money do you have? Oh, look at some people put a $sign in it. Is that going to mess up when I analyze it? That $sign will be a problem. Interesting. $10. Who writes dollars? None. Cash? Question mark? None. So a lot of times when we collect data, later we have to scrub the data to kind of remove extraneous stuff or make it fit together, make it more similar. Like either everything should have a $sign or everything should not have a $sign. 20, then the $sign. Get some interest, give or take. 150. Wow, they were rocking that day. 200, give or take. 115. Oh. No. Oh, what is that? Okay. Did a lot of weird stuff. So somebody was not liking this. So let me get to, where is it?
Number sign for all of the.
Oh, really? This is interesting. Most of the people that filled out my survey were female.
Surveys.
Yeah, who is taking the survey? Okay, so I've given this to a bunch of different classes for the last like 3 years, maybe 4 years. Sometimes it's math for elementary school teachers. Sometimes it's a class I teach called Math and Thought, Math and Society. Sometimes it's in a statistics class that I teach. So interestingly, the majority of people in my classes that took the survey were women. Fascinating. And I'm thinking back to statistics class I had 2 years ago. There were 25 students, 2 of them were women. Which that was, whoa, surprise. But in a lot of schools, there are more women scholars than. Do you exercise regularly? What's your favorite color? What is your pulse rate right now? Okay, so I'll come back to this in a minute. So I just want to talk about some different kinds of data that we collect and kinds of information containing. So, types of data. So there's 2 main types of data. There's qualitative data. And then there's quantitative data. So qualitative data is not numerical. Examples of qualitative data talked about a little bit earlier. Gender. Political party. Color. Did I ask any, on that survey, did I ask any questions that led to qualitative data? Color, yeah. So what was your favorite color? Gender. Exercise, yes or no, right? That's equality. Do you exercise? Do you not exercise? There were a few there. Quantitative data comes in a lot of different ways. So the first 2 breakdowns of qualitative data are discrete versus continuous. So discrete kinds of data are things that are countable. So, for example, money. When you're talking about how much money do you have on you, it's not a continuous stream of numbers that we could possibly say. If we do it down into cents, the smallest amount of money you could have is 1 cent. You can't have a fraction of a cent on it. So it's countable. That's the idea in math called discrete. Continuous means that if measurements occur, like let's say on a number line, and you have some starting point, and you have some end point, then it's possible to get any conceivable number in between that starting point and end point. Right? I can draw the line of possible numbers without picking up my pen. When I'm talking about money, money is like a set of points. So points are discrete, and number lines are continuous. Did I ask any questions that led to a numerical answer that we could say would be continuous? So, not much in the beginning. Oops, scroll on the side here. How much money did you have? That's definitely discrete. Height in inches. Do you think we classify that as continuous data or discrete data? ever say they're like 5, 5 and a half? Do you ever hear someone say that? Somebody else maybe 5, 5 and 3/4. Someone do 5, 5 and 7/8. 5, 5 and 9/16. Yeah, okay, that's getting a little fine. But technically in statistics, we usually say measuring a height is continuous. There's like infinitely many possible numbers you could pick between like 5 feet and 6 feet that somebody could be if you could get a really good measurement. Okay. So I would say height would be something that's continuous. That one's there. And sometimes it's hard to judge. So example here would be heights. Sometimes when we measure the time that something happens, a lot of places do photo finishes and races when people are really close together, and their times can be like a milliseconds apart. So that's a place where we to be continuous data. So perhaps a race time. I asked you about your pulse rate per minute, discrete or continuous? I would call that one discrete because we wouldn't talk about a fraction of a pulse rate. You don't say my pulse rate was 60 and a half. You say it's 60 or 60. So, but somebody might try to argue that, no, you could have a fraction of a pulse at the end of that. But I would classify that one as discrete. But again, sometimes the line is fuzzy as to whether it's discrete or continuous. And sometimes we just draw that line. The reason we do that is there's some calculations we can do with numbers that are discrete, and we can't do continuous. There's other calculations we can do with continuous numbers that we don't do with discrete numbers. So let's see, some other ones. So a slightly different category is a quantitative measurement that's called nominal. Do you know what the word nominal means? No. Actually, that is a definition of it, but it's not the one I was thinking. Nominal, another definition of it is just in name. So something's a number, but it's a name only. A common example of that is a 2x4 in construction. It's not actually 2 inches by 4 inches because it's been planed down to be nice and smooth. Okay? So it's a 2x4 in name only, but it doesn't actually measure that way. So can you think of any numbers that we use that are actually not really like measurement kind of numbers? They're just a name for something as a number. There was one such example on the survey. Yeah, your student number, right? That's a number, isn't it? Would it make sense for me to get all of your student numbers and find the average of your student numbers? Or find the average zip code of everybody? Okay. So we're using numbers, but we're using them as names. So your student number is just another name for you. So you can either call me Gary, or you can call me 118540. I prefer Gary as much as I like numbers. But sometimes we use numbers that are a name. But most of the time when we use numbers, they're actually meaningful. All right, let's see, other topics. I think those are the big ones. Okay. So, other things about surveys is, did I do any random sampling with the data that I collected here? So I have a big spreadsheet of data here. At the moment I have how many entries? I have 161 entries so far. Is anything here something I could use to do a report that would be meaningful? Is this a random sample or some other kind of sample? Yeah, so if it's a population, so that would be a census. what population do I have containing? What's that?
Students.
Students in some of my classes. I do it for all of them in the last few years. So this is definitely a convenience sample. I got a hold of these people just because they happen to take my class and I get information from them. So it's a convenience sample. Is there some randomness going on in this sample? Somehow they ended up at VMCC and they ended up in my class. So some random events led them there. But this is by no means a random sample or a simple random sample. It's not a clustered random sample, it's not it's just a convenience sample. So all of my data here is possibly very biased, and there's really not much of it. Like I couldn't use this and that graph there to say, hey, I have some information that leads me to believe that 73% of students at BMCC are female. I have no confidence in the way I collected this data. This might lead me to say, hey, I guess I should look at this. It seems like more than half of the students at BMCC may turn out, but I don't have enough information. The way you ask a question can be important. What's wrong with the question, do you exercise regularly? Well, what do you mean by regularly? Like, yeah, once a month. I walk to the refrigerator. Right. And what does exercise mean? So when you ask a question, you want to be careful to make sure you define it in a way that everybody understands what you're talking about. That is important. What's your favorite color? There's a lot of possible colors people could type in there. Somebody wrote insert color. Oh, did I think I know who that is actually. I think it's a colleague of mine. Ooh. Yeah.
What did you say? For their
What's wrong with this question right here in the data that I collected? What is your pulse rate and beats per minute? Is that pretty clear and concise and hard to mess up? Do you see any problem with it? Some people might know how to do it, yeah. If the data is important, don't ask them. Do it yourself. You go over and get their pulse rate. You go over and take their temperature. You go and measure their height. Otherwise, like I used to think I was 5'10". Definitely not 5'10". Maybe I was wearing boots and I rounded up, but I'm only 5'8". And once I wrote that down, my wife started laughing. You're 5'8". What are you talking about? But somehow I misled myself into thinking I was 5'10" when I was in my 20s. So it could be a mistake. It could be deceiving themselves. It could be wishful thinking. It could be a lot of things. But anytime you want to collect some kind of measurement that's important, professional should. Maybe that professional is the survey taker. Maybe it's something else. If it's health related, it should be a doctor or nurse or someone who's trained. So while I get you guys here, I have a thermometer and antiseptic wipes so we can cleanse it off after. So I'm asking everyone to take the temperature because I collect temperature. So the way this one works is you hold the button down and press it to your temple, slide it across your forehead to your other temple. While holding the button, pick it up and put it behind your ear. Pause and then let go. And I'm at 8.2 right now.
I know.
Yeah. And then we can clean it off and then put it first.
Put it on and then hold it.
So I think you put it to your temple and then push. Hold the button the whole time as you go. Temple to temple. Yeah, write it down, whatever you're talking about. Okay, so we'll just let that pass around. And all right, so I'm going to play with making some graphs here. So what I'd like you to do is if you opened up that introductory statistics survey spreadsheet, if you haven't, that page that had the survey on it, there's a link to the data in a spreadsheet. And for you to use it, you would need to make a copy of it. And so if you go to the file menu, one of the options should be make a copy. If you're not logged into Google, and then you would have to download it and use it with Excel, for example. But if you have a Google account accessible to you now, that's what I would recommend.
What do you do? I would.
Okay, so if you go to the file menu and just choose make a copy, then you'll have your own copy that you can mess with. And you can call it anything you want and file it anywhere you want. What's that?
Yeah.
You could log into your Google account here if you want. Or you could download it to yourself. That's good. And there's in the sheet, you can do it up there.
Yeah, no problem. Alright.
I use this.
So go to, if you're logged into Google, go to that view Canvas page. And go to that survey page. Look at the spreadsheet. And from there, you can go to the file menu and make a copy. And yeah, you can just put it in the drive for now. So I'm going to make a copy of it too. Just hit back and you should get that.
Okay.
So you can see there's a bunch of tabs at the bottom. So I was playing around with this in previous classes. There's an example of a chart I made here for the pulse rates. This kind of bar chart is called a histogram. So we're going to spend some time working on histograms over the next few classes. And then sheet 2 has a copy of the data. Sheet 3 has a copy of the pulse rates and another histogram. And then sheet 4, I have some height and gender data. So one important thing about collecting data is you never want to mess with the original data set. So for example, I made a copy of this, so technically I'm not messing with the original data, but in this spreadsheet right here, every time somebody fills out my survey, they get added to a new line here at the end. So it just keeps adding people and adding people. I don't ever want to mess with this responses sheet in the tab called form response. That's live data coming in. The other reason I don't want to mess with it is sometimes I mentioned we have to scrub data so that we can analyze it because people type things in ways that we expect. And we make errors when we scrub data because you have to make a decision and we don't always make the right decision. Or we made the best decision we could and somebody else convinces us it wasn't the right decision. So anytime I have data to work with, the first thing I do is I just duplicate that sheet. And oops, and that's what I play with, but not the original sheet. And then I give it a better name. Today's date. And then I start messing with the data from there. So is anyone in Excel or is everyone in Google Sheets? Sheets, okay, that's good. So Google Sheets offers some features that Excel doesn't that I really like. So for example, let's take a look at the height in inches. And let's just scroll through that to see if there's anything that's weird in there. So far, it looks pretty normal. Oh, I see one. Somebody wrote 61 IN. So that's one I want to scrub to just say 61. Yeah, I think 70.05 is okay. They're being goofy, but we'll take it. Somebody put 6 with the apostrophe and the quote, single quote and double quote. So that's feet in inches. I want to rewrite that, so that would be what, 6 feet is 72, 74 inches. So in order to work with data, we often have to scrub it a little bit. Here's another one, 5, 6. So that would be 66. 7 inches. So I got to get rid of the word inches and the space. It's funny. I had somebody come to see me saying they collected this data, but the charts were all messed up. They wouldn't work right. And it took me a while to figure out. One of the numbers had a space on it, and so the spreadsheet viewed that space as text on a number. So it screwed up the chart. And sometimes these little tiny things that are very hard to find can be problems. Let's see, so that one would be what, 65 inches. Here, I just got to get rid of. So if you could go through your list and clean it up, because we're going to use it. So anything that's not just a number, we have to clean it up. 67.5, that's okay. But we've got some weird things. Somebody is just tall. Problem? Oh, okay. So you must not have made a copy. Oh, there's something being blocked here. So we need to allow. How is it called? So sometimes we just have to delete data because we don't know what to do with it.
Then I go to my phone.
You can open it up automatically. Okay, yeah. So go find your copy. It should be at the top here. Where you put it in the folder. Let's go to your drive. So put it inside. Go back to your drive. So it's really this back. On this one. Go back to your drive. Just scroll. Only if you open them. So Google's having to try just reloading. Just the icon. All right, so from this folder, we're going to move. Go to the main structure. I'll hide it. We'll see in the keyboard. to interact with
For this one, we just delete it.
yeah, where it says tall, just do it.
Like the whole top.
Just the word tall. Yeah, just over. Anything that can go well will go well. Here's my hangout down. Cool, can you hear me still? Back online.
Your speaker comes off.
Hers is off. Oh, but maybe my volume is down. So, can you try saying something?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, great. Okay. I thought I went offline. Thank you. All right. So, for anyone that had trouble with this, I'm adding a new tab to that shared sheet called heights. It's already scrubbed. That ever resolved over there? Okay. So I'm going to help you catch up in just a minute. So what I want to do with this is just see what kind of charts Google Sheets can make. So a couple of options. If you click the heading where it says B for that column, that'll highlight the entire column. And as long as there's nothing else in the column, it's safe to do that to make a chart. So for example, if this was like 500 or 1,000 rows tall, it's kind of a pain to highlight all of those cells. So sometimes it's quicker to just hit the column, highlight the whole thing. And then from there, we can just go to Insert and then choose Chart and see what Google can do. So for me, the first thing Google tried to do was make a what's called a line chart. And what that means is it takes each of these as a height and then connects it to the next height. Is that a very meaningful chart? So just because we can make a chart doesn't mean it's a meaningful chart. So sometimes finding the best kind of chart takes a little practice. So on the side here, I can choose other options. So instead of a line chart, I could try making a pie chart. Now, the problem with the pie chart is it's treating each thing as an individual number, and it's saying, hey, here's a whole bunch of different heights. Okay. So most of these programs won't automatically pull everybody that's 5'6" together or everybody that's 6 foot together and make like a slice out of them. That's something we have to do ourselves. Okay. So a chart that will be meaningful here, and I'm surprised Google didn't do it, is what's called a histogram. So, yeah. So it's under Other, and it's over on the side just a little bit. And what it's going to do with a histogram is it's going to try to group things together for us. And I'll explain what this means. Are we getting there?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the histogram. There's some redundant things, like I don't need a color code because there's one color. So under Customize here, I could say take the legend, and instead of having it on the right, make it so I don't really need a legend there. To do that, I just went to the Customize tab, Legend Position. So now there's some other problems. It looks like I missed scrubbing something because somebody has a height between 0 and 6.67 inches. And it says there are 5 of them. Try to make a chart and something goes wrong. So my guess is there's one. See one now. I'm sure it's
It's down at line 182, it looks like.
Oh, okay. There's a few blank ones. Okay. Yeah. But, okay, yeah, so there are a bunch of blank ones in there. So it's probably treating those blanks as zeros. So somehow I have to pull them out. So one way to do that would be to sort it. And a tricky thing about that is when you sort a spreadsheet like this, you don't want to just sort one column at a time, because that will separate somebody's height from their student number, from their gender, and so on. And so generally what you want to do there is sort the whole sheet. Otherwise, what you do is you just copy it over into a new tab, and you can just do whatever you want with it. So it just kind of depends. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to sort the data so it's more meaningful for me. So one way to do that is to go to the format menu, no, the data menu, and oh, I'm highlighting this. So put there, data. Interesting. Why don't it let me do that? Anyway, what's supposed to happen is I should be able to go to data, sort range, and then I could say sort by column B. I could push all the zeros off of it. But it's being difficult. I don't want to sort by column A. Is anyone else able to get that option? It worked okay for you? Or you pulled it into a different sheet? Okay. Yeah, so sometimes you just have to pull it into a different sheet. And usually this works. No, you shouldn't have to highlight anything. You should just be able to click somewhere on the sheet and then go to data. Oh, sort range is off. Yeah, and usually you don't want to just sort a row. So since it's being difficult here, what I would do is I would just copy that whole column and then open up a new tab, paste it in there, and then here is where I would sort it. So data, sort sheet by column A. Ooh. What's that? Oh, yeah, we'll do the chart again. Oh, move the column. Okay, so Control Z. Yeah, so it's being fussy. Let's see. So data, sort range. Yeah, so usually what I do is I use the sort range feature. So I copy it into a new sheet. Data, sort range. It has a header row. What that'll do is it'll keep the title at the top all the time. And it's also helpful if you have multiple columns. And then I want to sort from Z to A because I want to push all those blank cells to the bottom. And then I hit sort. And so it'll give me the tallest people at the top. And it'll give me those short people or fussy cells at the bottom. So let's see, what's up? Oh, okay, there's a 4, 3, 2, 1, and a 0. Where did those come from?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Nicole pointed that out. They were hanging out earlier down in the sheet. Around the brain. Okay, so just delete those. So from here, I'll just do it a slightly different way than before, and then we're about out of time. I'm just going to highlight from that bottom cell all the way up to the top. And I usually do like to highlight the title of the column. That way I don't have to retype it. And then two ways to make it happen. One is go to Insert and choose Chart. And then you should also see a button in your toolbar for making a chart. And they go to take you to the same place. They take you to the chart wizard, and then Google guesses in a chart. So Google guessed a line chart for me. That wasn't what I wanted. And I'm going to use the histogram option. And now that I got rid of the weird data, I'm getting a more realistic looking chart. So you made a new copy of that?
Yeah.
So what you're going to do here is highlight column, look at column A, the data, sort. Let's have a data. You go to the bottom of the Okay, so we're out of time for fun with math today. So we'll play more with how to build a histogram by hand, how to give us a better understanding how Google's doing it. And this is next to a pie chart. A histogram is one of the most popular kinds of charts out there. So it's something they're going to spend several days explaining. Yeah, and then she just automatically save it. So you'll be able to bring this up next time. Okay. So then, hit the chart button. And then we want to switch from one, but that's not going to histogram. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's automatically saved. You got it there. All right. On with technology. Okay, that's it for now, Nikki. Hopefully, I'll see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, I should be there Wednesday.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.